welcome to day 8 of designing a tabletop RPG. I am doing that. That's what I'm doing. I'm designing a tabletop RPG. Still don't have a name for it, but we are making some good progress. Since the last video, the last video is the one where I talked about the campaign playbooks and really outlined a lot of thoughts about that. Since then, I have been kind of plugging away a little bit off camera because I felt like I just needed to be writing some stuff down. So today I've brought my laptop and I will just be kind of going through that. So here I am in Scrivener. First, I've got that game that I mentioned I had worked on already. We're not going to talk about that. Let's get a little minimized. So I have been just kind of writing down everything that I feel I have so far, and then also starting to think about character playbooks in a more like procedural way because I need to get started on that stuff. That's pretty important. After writing down a fair bit, I came in and under some advice I wrote out a table of contents for whatever this book ends up being. So I started thinking about RPGs and what they're structured like, and this isn't final. Nothing's ever final in these videos. We're gonna eventually write out a what is this section, so it'll just be me introducing the game to you. Gonna talk about safety tools. Gonna do a setting overview. We'll see how long, how in depth that is. Going to talk about, I think that the thing that makes sense after talking about the setting overview is the campaign playbook, because then that's okay. We've got this setting. After the campaign playbooks is going to be the bit about world building in session 0. So once you've picked your campaign playbook, probably the steps that you will go through to get your game started, which of course leads you right into character creation, character playbooks, and then we just are getting into the nitty gritty. So here are the stats, here are the perils, here are the skills, here's the gameplay, here's how you advance and level up, here's how you roll the dice in full. I don't know if there's going to be downtime yet, but that's where it would go, and then a GM section, which will be interesting to write because I've not written something like that. So going through what I have so far, I've got a brief history of the world. I don't know what I'm putting there yet. The basic dice mechanics written out. I think this is what we've talked about this. I've showed you examples of this in episode 3, maybe, when I came up with that. Day 3. I've got the stats and perils. So let's take a brief look at what I have here so far. The stats that we're looking at right now, so the verbs that the characters will be doing, are mend, assemble, interface. I don't think this one should be in here. Actually, give me a second. The stats I have so far are surmise, traverse, interface, incant, exert, guide, seek, converse, listen, assemble, and mend. So actually let me just expound on these a little bit. So surmise is going to be like figuring stuff out. If you are, it's kind of like an investigation. You could use it then. It's kind of like putting pieces together. I think any playbook specific moves that are going to be using surmise will involve once you've collected a set of facts, roll surmise, and then if you're the one that gets to add details, you can dictate the synthesis of the information and make that true in the world. Traverse is moving around effectively. That would make sense. Interface is going to be just like anything with technology, so robots, etc. Incant is anything with magic, wormholes, etc. Exert, physical shit. That's it. Guide is going to be things like teaching people, leading people around. Seek is, it's right there, searching for stuff. Converse is going to be talking with people. Listen It's going to be understanding people and then also overhearing stuff. Assemble to make things and mend to fix things. Cool. So yeah, that's where we're at with those. I think those are a good list. I think that list does leave out a few things kind of on purpose. It leaves out things like if you wanted to fight somebody, probably you're going to do exert. Maybe you can't. I don't know, but chances are you're going to need skills, which I haven't touched on the skills at all, but skills are going to be what allow you to do things effectively that an average person can't necessarily do. So the perils, I haven't touched this list at all, so this is much less final than stats. But we're still sitting on fear, weakness, morality, clumsiness, confusion, greed, lust, pain, apathy, and diffidence. Moving on, I have jotted down all the ideas from the last video about the campaign playbooks, the town building, life in the big city, historians, adventurers, monster hunters. One I think I didn't put in that last video is escape artists. So that would be people that are just trying to get off the planet as well, trying to either find the spaceship parts and make a spaceship or find a wormhole that would allow them to leave. Character playbooks, I think we'll get to this in a second. I think that's an important one. Character creation steps is what I'm working on. So obviously we're going to pick a playbook, and I think the playbook is going to have a bunch of little advances, little character powers. You'll select a couple of those. You'll select skills from the pick list. I think each playbook is just going to have like a big pile of skills that you can get from that playbook, and you'll grab a handful. And then each playbook will also have starting stats, which we'll get to that in a second. And then I think if you want other stats, I'm going to have a section here where you can advance a stat by 1 die. So let's say your playbook doesn't give you anything in surmise, but you want to be thinking about stuff and synthesizing information. You can advance a stat by a die, but you have to advance a peril twice or 2 perils once. So I want people to be able to get those big dice to start with, but pay for it. Or you can work to get the big dice later without having to pay for it. Which brings us to advancement. I don't have much about how exactly this is going to work, how this is going to trigger. I don't think we'll be tracking XP because I hate doing that. But that's another video, that's another day. So I think that brings us to character playbooks. And I just kind of want to walk through how I'm thinking through these. As I've been talking about lately, I've been having trouble, like even starting this process, because it's, one, very important to get right, and two, like a lot of content work and a lot of thinking about, how are players going to interact with this world? What kind of characters, in a world like this, what kind of characters are worth telling a story about? Because if you're providing playbooks, you are like limiting. If you're providing playbooks or character classes or anything like that, you're limiting like the type of characters that you'll end up seeing in the game. How do you limit that in a way that players don't necessarily consciously notice that they're being limited, but instead get excited about what you have? And so I started thinking about how to even begin that process, and the thing that I came up with was looking at that list of stats, the list of verbs that I have that characters are going to be doing in this game. And because if I got that list right, then those are the interesting things characters are going to be doing. So why not sit down and try to brainstorm, what does it look like when something is really good at doing each of those, and who are those people? So that's what I have. And I don't think that I'm going to, I really doubt that I'll be including every single one of these in like the main text. I think it would be cool to do that, but it kind of leaves me with yet higher and higher bars. So I've already got to come up with these campaign playbooks and now these character playbooks, and I just want to be realistic about what I'm capable of doing. In an ideal world, I think maybe I do get a class for each of the playbooks, but we'll get there. We will figure it out. I think what I'll end up doing is probably pick my favorites and work on those and keep working on those until I run out of steam on it. And then maybe in like a future little publication have some of the other ones. So let's just kind of go through what I have so far, what I think about them, the ones that I am thinking I definitely like. I think we're going to start at the bottom because there are some good, simple ones here at the bottom. The first one, thinking about the stat mend. is somebody I'm tentatively calling a fixer. Fixer has a lot of connotations as a word. I mean, let's just Google it real quick. We are in Wikipedia. I'm scrolling away. So fixer. A fixer is a person who carries out assignments for someone else or who is good at solving problems for others. It has different meanings in different contexts. So this is what I'm talking about. You can have an entire Wikipedia page about the different meanings of fixer. So I think I like that as a name of a class because that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And you can push it around. So their best stat is mend. So they will have the highest die. I'm thinking that's probably a D10. They'll have D10 mend. Because they're good at fixing stuff, whatever that might mean, and patching things up. The next one that I've not landed on a name for, I just have it written as Tinker, which is kind of similar to Fixer, but the stat of a symbol. So I'm thinking somebody that's like good at kind of dexterous things and good at construction projects and good at a lot of stuff. So this is a class that would be really good for somebody if you're playing like the base building campaign playbook. So somebody that's good at building stuff and making stuff would be great for a lot of the different contexts. The base building playbook is an obvious shoe-in. An adventure playbook because they can MacGyver stuff together, things like that. And the thing that I'm kind of trying to get to here is that I want a lot of different interpretations of both the stat and then also the classes. That'll be brought by both the pick list of skills. For the fixer, I'll probably have a couple of skills for each interpretation of fixer, and then that can guide the player down some path. And then also the advances. Have some advances for tinker or whatever I end up with. I have advances for building buildings and whatever construction projects you might be doing. Or have ones for smaller things, making little gadgets out of scraps. And I haven't decided the format of those, if this is going to be like a skill tree type thing. We'll get there. The next one I have is the attender. That's somebody that's going to be good at hearing things and good at hearing things out because they've got D10 listen. A rhetorician. I keep wanting to say this rhetorician, but I don't think that's the word. Somebody that can just talk real good. The investigator, they're good at finding things, they seek. The chaperone is somebody that is the chaperone, somebody good at guiding, so they're kind of there, they'll help you around. The athlete is a jock. Sometimes you're playing a role-playing game and you just want to play somebody whose main thing is that they're strong and good at being strong, and that's fine. The adept is the next one, the magic person. I've talked a little bit about magic and how it's going to be in this world. Haven't fleshed it out much either to you or to myself. It's not going to be like a list of spells. It's not going to be D&D style magic that would just fundamentally break the world if you think about it for longer than 2 minutes. That is going to be a fun thing to design, but definitely like wormholes and stuff. So a technician is going to be somebody that is good at robot stuff, good at using old technology that they might find around. Maybe they can make a mech. I don't know. You tell me. We'll have a survivalist. That one's pretty obvious. They're good at moving around outside of civilization. And then finally, one that I think might be fun to do is a theorist. This is somebody that would be especially good in like the historian campaign playbook, but somebody that's good at thinking about the structures of the different societies that you run into and trying to like synthesize that. We'll see where we get with that. I think if I could pull that one off, that would be a really fun one to play. That's where I'm at with the character classes and everything in general. I don't think I have much in me right now as far as creating new stuff. So this video will probably end here. A little bit of a different format than before since I'm not coming up with stuff live on camera, so I hope that's okay. I hope you liked it anyway. We'll get back to doing that stuff. I think I would guess that moving forward here, what these videos will look like is I'll do some stuff off camera and then I'll come back and do more. So like if I am continuing down the playbook section, I'll probably make a playbook off camera and then come back and start jotting stuff down for a new one. We'll see. We'll figure it out. This is something I've never done. Obviously, I've never made videos like this. I'll return with day 9 content, and in the meantime, see ya.